If you had $1 million in your hands and no one was watching, would you choose money, or would you choose your heart? Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what happened that night changed 2 lives forever, and it might just change yours too. And if stories about kindness, hidden tests, and life-changing moments inspire you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. You never know which story might remind you who you truly are. The rain fell in sheets over downtown Chicago, turning the city lights into blurred streaks of gold and red. Inside a dark luxury car parked across the street from a modest electrical repair shop, a man adjusted the collar of his worn jacket and studied his reflection in the mirror. His name was Alexander Laurent, though no one on that street would have recognized him as the reclusive tech billionaire behind Laurent Energy Systems, one of the fastest-growing renewable power companies in the country. Tonight, he wasn't a billionaire. Tonight, he was just Alex, a potential client with a problem. Alexander had built his empire from nothing. He knew what it meant to struggle. But somewhere along the way, between board meetings, acquisitions, and headlines, he began to wonder whether the world still held the same honesty he once depended on. After a bitter legal battle with a former partner who betrayed him for profit, he found himself questioning everyone's motives. Were people good when no one was watching? Or was integrity just a story people told when it was convenient? That question had led him here. Across the street, a small sign flickered: Martinez Electrical Services 24/7 Emergency Repairs. The shop was old, the paint chipped, the windows fogged from the cold. Inside, a woman in her early 30s was locking up for the night. Her name was Elena Martinez. Elena was tired. She had been working since 6 that morning, juggling 3 house calls and a commercial repair job that ran longer than expected. Her father had started the business 25 years ago, building it from nothing after immigrating with barely enough money to pay rent. When he passed away 2 years ago from a heart condition, Elena stepped in without hesitation. She left her comfortable apprenticeship at a larger firm to keep her father's dream alive. What most people didn't know was that Martinez Electrical Services was barely surviving. Bills were piling up, a large contractor still owed her $15,000, and the bank had sent a quiet but firm reminder that the shop's mortgage was 3 months behind. As Elena stepped out into the rain, Alexander crossed the street and approached her. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice steady but humble. "Are you closing? I'm sorry, it's urgent." She hesitated, glancing at the dark sky. She wanted nothing more than to go home, microwave leftovers, and rest her aching feet. "What's the problem?" she asked gently. "It's my mother's house," he replied. The wiring sparked. "There's a burning smell. I don't have much money, but I can pay something tonight." Elena didn't even pause after that. "Give me the address." Alexander watched her carefully as they drove separately to a small, run-down property he had rented for the test. Inside, he had arranged faulty wiring in an outdated fuse box, safe but complicated enough to require skill and time. For 3 hours, Elena worked without complaint. She crawled through tight spaces, replaced damaged wiring, and carefully explained every step to Alex, who listened quietly. At one point, she noticed him staring at a framed photo on the dusty mantel, a photo Alexander had planted of an elderly woman. "Your mom?" she asked. He nodded. "She's lucky to have you," Elena said softly. "A lot of people wouldn't show up like this." Something in her tone made Alexander look away. When she finally finished, it was close to midnight. She wiped her hands on a rag and gave him the invoice. It was modest, far less than what an emergency call at that hour usually cost. "You undercharged," he said. She shrugged. "You said you didn't have much. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as it looked." Alexander took a deep breath. This was the moment. "I need to tell you something," he began. "I can't pay you tonight. I was hoping you might. Trust me. I'll have the money in a week." There it was. The test. Elena's shoulders stiffened. He could almost see the calculations in her mind. A week's delay meant juggling bills, risking being taken advantage of, possibly losing money she desperately needed. She looked around the house, at the worn furniture, the leaking ceiling, the staged signs of hardship. Then she did something he didn't expect. She tore the invoice in half. "It's okay," she said quietly. "Take care of your mom. Pay me when you can. Or don't. Just make sure she's safe." Alexander stared at her. "You don't even know me." She smiled faintly. "My dad used to say electricity doesn't care how rich you are. It'll burn anyone the same. People are kind of like that too." We all struggle in ways no one sees. He swallowed hard. But the test wasn't over. The next morning, Elena arrived at her shop to find a black envelope taped to the door. Inside was a cashier's check for $1 million. Her hands trembled. There was also a note. Your integrity is worth more than this. But I hope this helps you keep your father's dream alive. A grateful son. Elena's first reaction wasn't joy. It was fear, confusion. She thought it had to be a mistake, or worse, a scam. That afternoon, a sleek car pulled up outside her shop. Alexander stepped out, no longer in worn clothes but in a tailored suit. Behind him stood two assistants. I owe you an explanation, he said gently. They sat inside her small office, the scent of motor oil and coffee lingering in the air. He told her everything, who he was, why he tested her, the betrayal that had shaken his faith in people. I needed to know, he admitted. That people like you still exist. Elena listened in silence. When he finished, she pushed the check back toward him. I didn't help you for a reward. I know, he said. That's why you deserve it. Tears welled in her eyes, not because of the money, but because someone had seen her. Seen her father's legacy, seen her struggle. For years, she had carried the business alone, doubting herself, wondering if she was foolish to keep fighting. You really think my shop is worth saving? She whispered. I think you're worth investing in, Alexander replied. Over the next months, Martinez Electrical Services transformed. The funds paid off debts, upgraded equipment, and allowed Elena to hire apprentices from underprivileged neighborhoods. She created a training program in her father's name, teaching young men and women not just how to wire a building, but how to build a life with integrity. But the story doesn't end there. Elena insisted on one condition before accepting the money fully. She wanted to partner with Laurent Energy Systems to provide affordable renewable installations to low-income families. Alexander agreed. Together, they launched a community initiative that brought safe electrical systems and solar panels to neighborhoods long ignored by major corporations. The night of the program's first public announcement, Elena stood at a podium, looking out at a crowd of families, workers, and reporters. Alexander stood off to the side. She told the story, not of a billionaire's test, but of a lesson her father taught her. Do the right thing, especially when it costs you. When she finished, she spotted Alexander in the crowd. Tears filled her eyes again, not because of the $1 million, but because in choosing kindness over caution, she had unknowingly restored a stranger's faith in humanity. And he had restored her belief that her sacrifices mattered. So let me ask you again, if you had $1 million in your hands and no one was watching, what would you choose? Because the truth is, every day we are tested. Not with envelopes full of money, but with moments. Moments to be honest. Moments to be generous. Moments to trust. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that integrity still matters in a world that sometimes forgets it, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who is watching. And you never know how one act of kindness might change everything.